I'm Anna,
And I'm Fran.
and you're listening to Murder Words. Welcome back. I was waiting for you to do it.
I know.
I was like, we were just awkwardly making eye contact, like waiting for the other one to start. Yes, welcome back to Murder Words. That's where you are right now. Listening to Murder Words.
Little recap.
So, Fran has a story for us today. We'll just get right into it. I have no business
Oh, wow.
to talk about.
Okay.
Just
short
we're ready to
and
go.
okay, let's do it.
Get
All
right into it.
Today's story. It's about Theresa Knorr.
Theresa Knorr.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Have I seen this somewhere?
So, full disclosure, I'm going to tell you all about it, okay?
Okay.
So, I actually got an assignment where I had to research a famous killer. And so I actually went to our murder words, like our list that we have, our shared notes.
Stop it.
And I was like, just try this one. And just picked it. And I was like, I'm going to do my assignment.
Interesting. Who put her on the list?
Can't remember. I think she was a suggestion.
Okay, because I've been adding a lot of people.
Yeah.
Did you see all the new names on there?
I did.
When I hear something, I'm like, I'm going to add this real quick to the list.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm just going to go in there. Instead of trying to figure out which one I'm going to do, I'm just going to go right in there to the list.
Okay, maybe it's just because I've seen the name and I don't know the story. We'll get right into it then.
Listen, there's not a lot. I can't believe how much little information was available. It was like there would be things like there's no like a lot of like newspapers and things like that. There wasn't a lot of newspapers and documentaries and things like that about it. It was more.
I love a good documentary.
I do too. I was really hoping for a documentary.
Makes it so much easier.
But it was just more like facts about Theresa Knorr or disturbing things that you might not know about Theresa Knorr. So it was like I had to piece together like a lot of different things to get this.
Did you get a good grade on your assignment?
Well, I haven't got it back yet.
Oh, well,
but I
keep us
better.
updated.
I better.
I wish I had assignments like that when I was in there.
I was like, this is perfect. I'll just do just like this. So, Theresa Knorr was originally born Theresa Jimmy Francine Cross.
Okay.
I know she has
quite the name.
Two middle names. And she was born on March 14th, 1946. She was born in Sacramento, California, and she was the youngest daughter of Sweeney Gay and James Cross.
Sweeney?
Sweeney Gay. That's her name. Sweeney Gay. That's the mom's name.
Sweeney.
Sweeney.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sweeney.
James, her dad, was an assistant cheesemaker at a local dairy. And at one point, I think when she's like maybe 10, her dad ends up being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was like the big person that was like supporting the family financially. And when he, developed Parkinson's, he became disabled.
Yeah.
So the mom had to step up into that role. And during that time, like the father started like to drink heavily and things like that. But, there's no real indication of any kind of abuse from her parents. They seemed like they were like just doing the best they could with the situation they were handed.
Yeah.
And Theresa and her mom were actually like very, very, very close. Like they would say like Theresa was actually like a little bit obsessed with her mom. Like she clung to her.
Oh.
Like this is my mom. She clung.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, in 1961, while they're out shopping one day, Theresa's mom has a heart attack. And she dies in Theresa's arms.
Stop.
At the age of 15.
It. Right now.
Mm-hmm. Which...
Traumatic, dude.
Traumatic.
Very traumatic. Like, that is a young girl,
Mm-hmm. So, obviously, this tragedy, it would leave an impression on her the rest of her life. It kind of started some of, like, her downward spiral.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell she made a lot of decisions based off this event that happened in her life.
Yeah.
So, in total, Theresa was married, I think, 4 times. And we're going to go through some of her marriages.
Okay.
And, like, some of the patterns with her marriages. So, her first marriage was actually at the age of 16, about a year after her mom passed, which wasn't that weird.
Did she get put in like a home or anything, or was she just like on her own after that?
No, like her dad was still alive.
Oh, her dad was still alive.
Yeah, her dad was still alive. Like he
signed off on the marriage.
Yeah, he was like sick and yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know if they had to have signatures back then. Do you think?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't know. Anyway, so she got married at the age of 16 to a man named Clifford Sanders, who was, I think he was 21. And they immediately started having babies.
Oh.
So at 17, she gave birth to her first child, Howard. As you can imagine, the marriage was not a happy one, and they fought constantly over allegations of infidelity on both sides.
Okay.
So they were just always fighting all the time. In 1964, when she was 18 years old, after a big fight, Theresa actually shot Clifford in the chest.
Cash.
Just cash like that.
Okay.
Theresa was actually pregnant at the time. Like, she was like 7 months pregnant at this time. And like they got into a big fight. She grabbed a gun and she shot him right in the chest. She claims that it was self-defense. Well, they still put her on trial for this.
Yeah.
And get this, it's the shortest trial I've ever heard in my entire life. It was 2 months. She's 7 months pregnant. They go through the whole trial in 2 months. And then she will have her baby. But they ended up actually like acquitting her. They believed her that it was self-defense.
Oh, okay.
Even though like her sister went on the stand and like testified against her, saying that like before Theresa would allow Clifford to leave her, she would kill him first. Because she was like possessive of him.
Okay, so this is like a pattern. She was like this with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's like this with Clifford.
Yes, Clifford.
Clifford.
Yep. So, as I said, she was acquitted of this crime. But I kind of still want to hold her for it. But, like, you'll see later on why I want to do that.
Okay.
So,
we are allowed to do that because we're not, well, I'm not a lawyer.
No.
You will be eventually.
I still want to hold her for it. Soon after the trial, she gave birth to her second child, a daughter named Sheila. And this was Clifford's child. Of course, she would never meet her father, but she quickly married again in 1966. So she she was acquitted of her husband's murder in 1964, like the end of 1964, beginning 65, and she remarries almost immediately again afterwards.
Okay.
So she married Robert Knorr, and over the next 4 years, they would have 4 children. And I'm talking like back to back to back. I added up the time. I mean, it could only be like 1 to 2 months in between pregnancies.
That is a nightmare.
I
say it every time, but
her.
That's a lot.
Married in 1966. By 1970, she had 4 children by him.
Wow.
Those children,
Ooh.
I know. Those children were Suzanne, William, Robert Jr., and Terry, who was actually her youngest daughter.
That bothers me.
So Terry.
Why would you give them all random names like that?
Oh my gosh, they don't have to all be the same letter.
That's so stupid. But they don't even end with like the same sound.
Most people
It's just
don't
like
do that.
randomly like, it's a pet peeve. Just let me have it.
I will let you have it. You know what? Damn them. Okay.
She should have chose better names. I'm just saying.
So, Robert Jr. was obviously named after his father, Robert Knorr.
Thank you.
Okay. And Terry, her name was actually Theresa, and Theresa named her after herself, but they called her Terry.
You don't see that much.
No, you don't, because it's very...
Why is that?
Because it's very egotistical.
It's egotistical, but what you see it a lot in men.
You do.
But you never see it in women.
You do.
I mean, my husband's has the same name as his dad.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
It's a little tidbit.
It is a little tidbit.
Fine.
You made my mechanisms go a little bit though. Like, what is that? So it turns out that like 2 months after Terry was born, Theresa and Robert they're fighting all the time, and Robert finds out that Theresa is sleeping with his best friend.
Oh.
Yeah.
Scandal.
And at this time too, Theresa's like, she's not like a drunk, but she's like out partying a lot too at the same time, so they're always fighting about like, you know, where they're at, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, at this point she has 6 children. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
she's,
so
not
she
home.
had 0 early adulthood when
0
everyone
children.
else partied.
Yes. So this ended up resulting in divorce, and at the end of 1970, they got divorced. They ended the marriage. But Theresa was super crappy to Robert, and she refused to let him see his children. Like, she
I
moved...
hate when people do that.
I know. She moved around all the time, would, like, make a point to hurt him with it.
Yeah.
So, 4 months later, she married Ronald Pullman.
I thought you were going to say she was pregnant again.
Well,
Stop.
No. 4 months later, after this, relationship with the father of 4 of her children, she marries a man named Ronald Pullman. They did end up getting divorced a year later, and he said that was because, like, she would go out to the bars all night, and he would be stuck with her 6 children.
Yeah.
He just got kind of tired of it.
That's a good reason.
Mm-hmm. So after her and Ronald were done, Theresa just went full out alcoholic. Drinking all the time, staying out all the time. And while she was out at a bar, she ended up meeting a man named Chester Harris, which she immediately married. And then 2 months later, immediately divorced.
Oh.
Yes. So at this point, she's had 4 marriages. She's widowed once and 3 divorces.
Okay.
In all of her relationships, she was known to be, like, extremely possessive with them, jealous, prone to violent outbursts with them. She was never faithful in any of her marriages.
Yeah.
Because she always had to have, like, that next best thing, or be with somebody, or she liked the attention from it. But you're going to see how it, like, really transgresses as it goes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was so bad. There was also rumored that, like, Chester, the last husband,
Yep.
and her daughter Suzanne, they were, like, super close. Like, they were like a father-daughter relationship. They had, like, a good common ground with each other, and that Theresa hated Suzanne because of this, because it was just attention away from her.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So after the divorce from Chester, Theresa decided she didn't have a man in her life anymore, so she was going to start these violent outbursts towards her children.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. So Theresa was, like, never, like, really, like, mom of the year.
Yeah, you think?
You know what I mean? Like, she
I'm
goes out the
feeling
bar.
that.
Yep. And so, like, it was described, like, before her divorce with Chester, that she was, distant and always drunk, but, like, not abusive towards them in that physical way, at least. Emotionally, spiritually, yes, but it wasn't that bad. So when Theresa was younger, she was considered to be a very beautiful woman, very charming, outgoing, smart, and Theresa really hung on to that.
Yeah.
She really enjoyed, like, being that, like, pretty little thing in the room. The attention and all of that. Well, due to her drinking, and she had 6 children before the age of 30.
Yeah.
Her looks started to fade, and she gained a ton of weight.
Yeah.
So Theresa, in response to this, decided to close herself off and her children from the outside world, so no one would see her like that.
So, she was a stay-at-home mom?
Yes.
That?
With 6 children.
I have no words.
Yeah, so the children basically were taken, like, immediately out of school, and the neighbors rarely saw them. And
why would she want to do that?
Because she didn't want anyone to see her. That's what it was. She just didn't want anyone to see her like that.
That's so selfish.
Yep. The children were not allowed to have guests either in the home, just because of that exact thing. They did not want anyone to see her appearance. Neighbors said when they did see the children that they seemed to be anxious and dirty, and there was, like, the smell of urine coming out of their home. So, like, the children were clearly not being taken care of.
Dude.
So Theresa, she basically becomes, like, a recluse at this point.
Yeah.
She's just drunk all day, just sitting in her house all day, yelling at her kids, until she escalates it by starting to throw, like, knives and scissors at them.
What?
Yes. She's, like, just throwing knives and scissors at them all the time, being aggressive towards them.
Why would she do it? Like, she's just like, am going to throw these, like, I mean, for no reason. Like, you're just, not that there's a good reason to ever
Well, the
throw
reason
scissors, but.
she started doing this, I guess she beat all the children, all 6 of them. But she was particularly cruel to 2 of her daughters, Sheila and Suzanne.
Yeah.
And it was stated because she was jealous of them. That they were both, like, becoming, like, beautiful women. Around the time they were, like, 11, 12 years old.
And she was, like, trying to run it. And
yeah, and she was, like, so jealous of them that she just took out all of her frustrations out on them. So, you know, Theresa is, obviously, she's beating her sons, her daughters, both of them, for a while. But as soon as it's exhausting to her, basically.
Oh, poor thing.
It's exhausting to her, so she actually starts enlisting the children to beat on each other.
Is this like a mom murder type of situation? Like, what is happening?
You're gonna see.
This is not what I expected.
Yeah. So reportedly, the boys, Howard, William, and Robert, would take turns, like, holding down the sisters for beating. She really hated her daughters. The youngest daughter, Terry, seemed to have, like, the least amount of, like, abuse towards her, but it might have just been because she was younger at that time. So, one particular time, Suzanne ran away. This is in 1981.
I would too.
Mm-hmm. After, like, a particularly violent beating, the police found her quickly, and she was placed in a psychiatric hospital. I don't know what she did.
The daughter?
The daughter was.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I was trying to figure that out too. I think know if they just placed her there
For safety?
or
Okay.
like, holding, or what that was, because it doesn't look like she caused any kind of issues.
Okay.
She reported the violence in her home to the police. They, of course, interviewed Theresa. They didn't do much, though, with the interview, and she denied the abuse allegations, and she claimed that Suzanne was just mentally ill, and that she was making everything up. And when you see her, you would kind of think, like she's not doing anything crazy, because she looks just like a normal mom. The police did not investigate any further, and they placed Suzanne back into the home.
Dude.
Yes.
That's terrifying. It's probably so much worse now.
It's about to get real bad. So, you know, as punishment, as soon as Suzanne returned back to the home, Theresa handcuffed her to a bedpost. She instructed the other children to repeatedly beat her for hours on end. And then Theresa stepped in and she started to sexually assault Suzanne, like, with various objects in the house.
Dude.
Mm-hmm. So, like, over the next 2 years, like, Theresa would refuse to let Suzanne leave the house at any point. And at this point, like, she's getting a little bit older, too.
I was about to ask, how old is she?
Yeah.
At this point, like, preteens or something?
She's probably around 18 at this point.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So, yeah, she sexually assaulted her daughter. She is also, at this time, starting to let Suzanne and Sheila... Sheila's out. She's basically, like, tells her to go out and prostitute for extra income for the family. And that's really the only time, like, over the next 2 years, I say, with Suzanne, because she stayed there for a little bit, but then she would let her go out to, like, prostitute and then come right back.
Yeah.
So, here's where it's getting a little weird.
Yeah.
Theresa became obsessed with the idea that Suzanne was a witch and was casting spells on her to cause her to gain weight. So she's like, 5 pounds.
Like with a wand or something.
Like a wand or something, yeah. And that her ex-husband was behind it.
Yeah, she has something going on.
Well, in June of 1983, a violent argument erupted between Theresa and Suzanne. During the argument, Theresa grabbed a .22 caliber pistol and shot Suzanne directly in the chest. So, Suzanne's just laying there, and Theresa tells all of her other children, like, you're not going to touch her, you're not going to do anything, you're going to let her bleed out on the floor.
What?
Mm-hmm. So, Suzanne's, she's a fighter, man. So, Suzanne actually survives this. Theresa drug Suzanne up to the bathtub, let her sit in there for like a couple days.
This is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Let her sit up there for a couple days, and then saw like she was going to like make a full health, like
she was like
full
pissed.
recovery.
Yeah,
she's like pissed, but she's like, here, like, other sister, you can go help your sister because she's actually going to live. So, we should probably do something about that. And here you go fix her. So she never received any kind of medical attention for this. And the bullet that went into her chest actually remained lodged in her back.
God, that hurts me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is like over a month. She's recovering from this shot right to her chest, like point blank shot to her chest. So, she's 19 years old this time. And another incident occurs where her mom ends up stabbing her, but she doesn't die. She makes it, and basically around this time, Suzanne's like, all right, I've had enough. I'm 19.
Yeah.
I can get out of this house. And I don't know why she decided to move here, but she decided she was going to move to Alaska.
Oh, I thought you meant here,
no,
West Virginia.
No.
I was like, she's here.
No, she told her mother she was leaving to go live in Alaska.
Okay.
I don't know if she just made that up because it was the farthest way you could think of.
Yeah.
Or why Alaska?
Why'd she even tell her mom?
Well, yeah, I know. I wondered that too.
Sneak out.
Well, her mother agreed to let her go, but under one condition. The bullet in her back had to be removed first.
What is happening?
Mm-hmm.
What is actually going through her? She is a psycho.
Well, this was because it would hide the only physical evidence of abuse in the home. Like, if Suzanne got out and then told the world what all would happened in their house, Suzanne would be like, hey, look, there's a bullet in my back right now. I can prove this really did happen. And without that, it would be Theresa's word against Suzanne's word. That's how she thought about it.
What about the other kids?
Well, they're still getting abused. They're still getting beaten. But her primary focus was Suzanne and then Sheila. So, Suzanne's like, okay, fine. If you want to get this bullet out of my back, all right, let's just do that, and then I'm out of here. So on their kitchen floor, Theresa sets up a little makeshift hospital. And when I say makeshift hospital, she basically force feeds an entire bottle of liquor down Suzanne's throat.
Yeah.
To make her numb. Then she takes a box cutter, pours alcohol on it, and then takes it to her back and digs out the bullet.
Dude, no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that.
She successfully removed the bullet, but Theresa developed an infection.
Yeah. I would imagine so.
Mm-hmm. And basically, she's begging her mom, please take me to the hospital. You've really done it this time. I am dying. You need to really take me to the hospital. Well, basically, Theresa got annoyed by her daughter's constant complaints and wanted to go to the hospital. So on July 16th, 1984, Theresa instructed her sons, William and Robert, to pack up Suzanne's belongings into trash bags and to bind Suzanne's hands and feet. She then instructed them to put her in the family car and that they were going to go on a trip.
No, I don't like this at all.
The family drove over 100 miles to the Sierra Nevada mountains. There, they pulled over on the side of the road. The sons unloaded all of Suzanne's belongings on the ground. They then picked up Suzanne and placed her on top of her own belongings.
And left her there.
Well, Theresa then instructed her sons to pour gasoline on Suzanne, which they did.
This story is horrific.
Mm-hmm. It was later found out that Suzanne was indeed alive during this. And
she set her on fire.
She set her own daughter on
she
fire.
She burned alive.
She burned her alive. Her own daughter.
Bitch.
Mm-hmm. And had her sons help her do it. So Suzanne's body was found the next day. But it would be a really long time before they ever identified who she was.
Yeah.
In 1985, Theresa's daughter Sheila was 20 years old. And as I said, Theresa had been prostituting her just for some supplemental income and things like that. So one day Theresa and her daughter Sheila get into this really violent argument. An argument resulted in Theresa handcuffing Sheila and locking her in a small closet. When I say a small closet, I don't mean like even like a hallway closet. Probably like half of whatever you're thinking.
I'm thinking of the Harry Potter closet.
Smaller than that.
Okay.
I think they said it was like 2x4. Like she couldn't even sit down in this closet. It was like to hang up 2 jackets or something like that. So the argument was over Theresa accusing Sheila of giving her an STD. And she said that Sheila gave her an STD by sharing the same household toilet that Theresa did. She said she caught it from her toilet seat.
Dude, isn't that a myth?
It's a myth.
Anyway.
But Theresa blamed her daughter for this. And as punishment, she locked her in this closet, handcuffed. So, I read a thing where it was talking about her, the youngest child, Terry. She's in the house and she talks about like hearing her sister scream in there, like, help me, someone help me.
No.
And Theresa would not allow anyone to go to the door. And she also said no one tried to either, because they just knew you weren't allowed to help.
Yeah. They were all probably so scared.
Mm-hmm. So after about 3 days of this, the noises stopped. Her sister reported, like, the noises stopped. She was no longer hollering for help. And it would be further another week before Theresa bothered to open the door of the closet. Only when the apartment started to smell of like decomposing body did she decide she needed to do something with her. It's almost like Theresa forgot she was even in there.
Did she like die of starvation?
Starvation. Mm-hmm. She died of starvation and dehydration.
God, these are like the worst.
Yep.
I mean, all murder is really bad, but like these are like the worst ways to die, I feel like.
Yeah. Just in her family home, and I mean, like, no. Terry said this was so normal.
Yeah.
For this abuse
they probably
to
didn't know
happen.
any difference.
It was just normal to have her sister locked in a small closet screaming for help. So, Theresa again recruited the help of her sons, William and Robert, to gather their sister's body and drive up to the Sierra Nevada mountains. They dumped her body on the side of the road. They did lay down a piece of cardboard, which I thought was weird, that they put down a piece of cardboard, then they threw her down.
Why? To like keep a fire going longer or something?
I don't know.
Would that even work?
I don't know. It just seems like they had some more of a plan than they actually did. Than they were actually able to do. You know what I mean? It seems like they brought things with them.
Yeah.
But they just left her there dead. And her body was discovered a few days later by some hikers. Again, though, she remained a Jane Doe for almost a decade.
A decade?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how long Suzanne?
Mm-hmm. They get discovered who they are like the same time. Spoiler alert. So after Sheila's death, Theresa instructed her youngest daughter, Terry, to burn down the family home to get rid of like all the evidence of her sister's
Lord.
death. Mm-hmm. She's like, you need to burn this house down because, I mean, your sister's decomposing body was in there.
here.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, it wasn't even a bad fire. Like, so after all this is said and done, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait till the end.
Okay.
I'll wait till the end for that part.
Okay.
But it wasn't even like that bad of a fire. I mean, because she was like 13. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been very successful starting fires on purpose. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. Is there a story behind that?
So Terry would live with her mom for another 3 years. At this point, all the other kids, like, they've moved away, except for, I think, Robert. I think Robert's still living with her, but he's well into his adulthood at this point, too.
So there's, like, no turning back for him kind of thing?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay.
He's experienced it all at this point. So when Terry was 16, she was able to run away, and she ended up, like, developing, like, a drug problem and things like that. Because she was a runaway. You know what I mean? She didn't have a lot of options. And
how do you deal with that?
Yeah, how do you deal with that trauma in your life? So in 1987, Terry's like, I can't live with this anymore. I need to go to the police and tell them what my mother did to my sisters. So she attempts to go to the police and inform them of the murder of her sisters, but the police do not believe her.
What? Did they even look into it, or were they just like, she's crazy?
They think that the story
because she's on drugs
probably influenced some of it. Yeah. So the following year again, Terry tries to tell the police what her mother and brothers had done to her sisters, and yet again, she is not believed.
Where is this at again?
Well, she's reporting it in Utah. The crimes happened in California.
Okay. You mean the California that borders Georgia?
You stop it. So, dang it. I was wrong. All right. Okay. So, in 1993, Terry is watching the show America's Most Wanted, and it inspires her to try again with the police. So she calls the show and she's like, hey, this stuff really happened. Like, someone believe me right now. Like, I'm going to tell your producers all about this, and this is what happened. And the TV show is like, you need to call, like, the police back home.
Yeah.
And see, like, what they figured out back there. So Terry does. And Terry starts telling the police this, like, big, crazy story. And they're like, about it. But then it clicks with them.
Why would they just not try to invest? Like, even if that's not true, if someone's saying, like, anything about murder, why would you just not do any, like, that? What?
I don't know, but they didn't. They didn't believe her. And, you know, it could be some parts, too, where, like, I think she only had, like, an 8th grade education, things like that. So it might have just, and drug addiction. So it might have just been something that they just dismissed. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So the police in Placer County, California, did believe her.
Thank
They
God.
started looking, and they realized that they had 2 Jane Does that matched up to her story.
Yeah.
So finally, Sheila and Suzanne were identified as being her sisters.
With, like, DNA, or
With,
they
like,
just
DNA.
knew, like, from the story, like,
From the
this
story,
is them.
From the story, and probably eventually
Okay,
DNA, because it was
good.
1993, so they're getting there
Yeah.
with it. So Theresa and her 2 sons, William and Robert, like, they were immediately arrested in November of 1933. Sheila is charged with the murder of Suzanne and the murder of Sheila, and the sons were, like, co-conspirators with it.
Yeah.
So when Theresa goes in there, she's at first, like, she's denying it. She's like, no, I never did this, I never did that. She's crazy. But her sons, like, quickly are turning on her. And so she's like, okay, I did it. But that was, like, only in exchange for, like, life in prison versus, like, the death penalty, basically.
Right.
She confessed that she didn't get the death penalty. And basically, Robert, he was already in prison for, like, 16 years because he
For a different crime?
For a different crime.
Oh.
So they gave him 3 years for the murder of his sister, assisting in the murder of his sisters. But he was already in jail for 16 years for, like, murdering a guy at a bar.
Oh.
So, like, you know, it didn't really matter to him because it was concurrent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then William, he, I think he only received probation because he was, like, married and, like, doing good.
And it's kind of hard in that situation because they are also being abused.
Yeah.
And scared.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that makes it okay, but
Yeah.
you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, you do. Theresa ended up getting a, life in prison. And here's the really crazy part. She's eligible for parole.
What?
She's eligible for parole.
She's alive still?
She's still alive.
When?
2027. She'll be eligible for parole. 6 years. I know.
She's got to be old, right? Didn't you say it was like the...
46. I think she was born 46.
Dude, she's old as shit.
60, 78. Mm-hmm. She'll be old, but she could. She could make it out one day. She'd have to go probably to a nursing home, but she could make it out.
They'll probably parole her too just because she's so old.
Yeah, they probably will, honestly.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's extremely violent. Like, what?
That is the story of Theresa.
No, I've never heard
can't
that
believe-
story.
I know, like, I was like...
I feel like we say that every
Wild.
single time too, but like, and that like all was happening when we were born. Like, we were alive.
Mm-hmm. It was happening.
Wow. I do think, especially after hearing that we should try to start ending our episodes with an
Happy thing?
uplifting
Thing.
I don't know how.
Something uplifting. I know my hair's crazy.
I know a couple episodes, I just had to take a whole minute to fix my hair. Yeah, so that was really sad.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, if you have ideas on how we can happily end our episodes,
Yes, we need a happy way to end it.
you just let us know. We are open to all suggestions.
Oh.
Or any other suggestions you have. We take criticism well sometimes. If you say it nicely. So, go on over and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and send us an email at murderwordspodcast@gmail.com. Is that it?
Yeah, I think
that's it. You look exhausted.
I am exhausted.
So, yeah. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.